Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. My name is LaShawn, and welcome to Banned Books Week. We only really get to talk about this once a year, so we are skipping the chit-chat today and diving directly into our topic because, frankly, it's just such an important one. We only really get to focus on this once a year, so that's what we're going to do today. So, according to pen.org, in 2025, book censorship in the United States is rampant. Never before have so many books been systematically removed from school libraries across the country. Never before have we had so many states passing laws and regulations that are made to ban books, including bans on specific titles statewide. Never before have so many politicians used banning books as a part of their platform and ideological preferences, threatening public funding just to get everyone to comply to their needs, their thoughts, their ideologies. Never in the history of the United States have so many books been taken away from our children. So I often hear from a lot of people asking the question, well, what do I do? What can I do as this one lone person? What can we do to stop anything? How can we fight? Never fear, friends. This is a hot topic for me. This is something that is near and dear to my heart because I always say if it wasn't for me being able to stand up in the Francis Gregory Library in Washington, D.C., and stand in that aisle that day that I discovered I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, which has been on the banned and restricted list many, many times. If that book had been banned, that might have stopped my reading journey because there was nothing to me as a sixth grader, I believe. That's when it really started flowing with me after I stood day after day in the aisle and read that book. I would read like a chapter and put it back and then come back the next day and read another chapter and put it back. I don't know why I didn't check it out. First of all, I wasn't in the kids section like I was supposed to be. I was downstairs. But no one cared. The librarian, she knew I was reading that book and she would just smile at me every day as she walked by. But so this is a near and dear topic to my heart because I often think if the book that got me reading had been banned, would I be the reader that I am today? So people ask me all the time, how can they fight? What can they do? So I've got 5 suggestions for you on how to get involved in this fight against banned books and how you can make a difference. Then we'll talk about a few books that I think that you should know about. Some of them are commonly on the banned books list, some you might have heard of and some you might not have. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's first talk about how you can fight. Number 1, support your local libraries and librarians. Guys, librarians are often on the front lines of this issue. They're getting fired, they're getting harassed, their jobs are in jeopardy. Attend local library board meetings if you can. Send thank you notes or speak up in support of inclusive collections that are included in your library catalog. Donate banned books or request them if they are missing. You can donate to the library. I do it all the time. I'm always trying to purge the books in this house. So this matters because silence at these public meetings is often mistaken for agreement for the censorship that is going on. So we have to speak up. Number 2, know what's happening locally because book bans start small, often at the school or the district level. Your best bet is to stay informed by following your school board agenda or your local news because that's where it will be reported first. Join or support organizations that track bans like PEN America and the American Library Association's Office for Intellectual Freedom. This matters because you can't speak out if you don't know what's being challenged. Okay? I will leave the link to both of those in the show notes. Number 3, speak up. Do it respectfully, but do it loudly. So when a challenge arrives, your voice counts, friends. Write letters to school boards or your local officials. Attend public comment sessions because these sessions are always there. And the people who are trying to get stuff banned, they know about them, but you don't. Bring any data you have, like mention how books help literacy, empathy, and representation. It matters because a handful of loud voices often pushes bans. Why this matters so much? A handful of loud voices is often what pushes these book bans. But it only takes a few calmed, informed ones to balance the room. And sometimes we just need to de escalate, friends. It is just as simple as that. The fourth thing you can do is use your platform. Whether you're a podcaster, a blogger, a teacher, or even if you are just an avid reader, or if your child is an avid reader, talk about it. Feature banned authors on your platform. Put it in your Facebook group, put it in your church group, put it in your family group chat. Just do it. Okay, recommend those banned books. Create themed reading lists or social media challenges. Just do it because awareness is what builds community and community is what builds change. And the last thing you can always do is buy, gift, and read banned books. If a book is being pulled from the shelves, help it find a new one. Gift banned books to friends, classrooms, community centers, other libraries. Shop at indie bookstores that spotlight challenge titles. Consider donating a few banned books to a little free library in your neighborhood. I do this one all the time, personally, all the time. This matters because remember, the simplest act of resistance is reading banned books yourself, friends. You can always start with yourself. Always, always. Now, let me add to your TBR with 5 books that have been banned or restricted in America that I think you should read. Some of these are on my own personal list, which is why I'm including them. And a lot of them I have already read myself, so I know what I'm talking about. That's all I'm going to say. The first book I want to talk about is Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. The premise: set in Washington, D.C., the story centers on Claudia, whose best friend, Monday Charles, has disappeared. When Monday doesn't come to the first day of school, then the second, and so on, Claudia suspects that something is very wrong. Claudia tries to get help from her family, school authorities, and the police, but often runs into silence, neglect, or indifference. The novel explores themes of trauma, neglect, systemic invisibility of Black girls, abuse, mental health, loss, and how communities can fail our most vulnerable populations. This book is inspired in part, by real world cases of missing Black girls and how often society, that's media, law enforcement, often fails to treat those disappearances with urgency. I mean, I know you've seen it. The reasons that this book has been banned or challenged, let's talk about it. This book is a young adult mystery thriller, and it has been challenged in Virginia and Texas and removed from some libraries in Utah. Parents organized to have the book banned for mentions of sexual abuse and violence. Was it because, okay, I won't even go there. I'm just going to leave that there. The next book I want to add to your TBR is All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Cayley. Or it might be Kylie. All American Boys is a 2015 young adult novel co-written by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Cayley that explores themes of racism, police brutality, and social injustice through the alternating perspectives of 2 high school students, Rashad, who is Black, and Quinn, who is white. The story begins when Rashad is wrongly accused of shoplifting and brutally beaten by a white police officer, an event witnessed by Quinn, who is the officer's younger brother. The novel follows the boys as they navigate the aftermath of the incident, confronting their own beliefs, community divisions, and the courage to speak out against injustice. Let's talk about why this book was banned. All American Boys is banned and challenged for containing profanity, drug use, and alcoholism, and for being perceived as promoting anti-police views, containing divisive topics, and being too sensitive for young audiences. However, many defenders of the book argue that it provides a realistic reflection of the world young people live in and offers important opportunities to discuss social justice and contemporary issues like police brutality. The next book on my list is Out of Darkness by Ashley Hope Perez. Out of Darkness is a 2015 young adult historical novel by Ashley Hope Perez that uses the 1937 New London, Texas school explosion as a backdrop to explore themes of forbidden love, segregation, and racial injustice. The story follows a forbidden romance between a Mexican American girl, Naomi Vargas, and an African American boy, Wash Fuller, in a deeply segregated East Texas town. Why this book was banned. The common complaint about this book focuses on passages that some consider sexually explicit, such as a scene involving a group of boys objectifying a Mexican American main character. But the challenges also cite depictions of abuse and the novel's use of offensive language. But per NPR, while not a stated reason for the bans, the book's exploration of racial themes, including interracial relationships and school segregation, is often at the heart of the controversies, with critics arguing that sexual content is used as a scapegoat to target these themes. The fourth book that I want to talk about is All Boys Aren't Blue by George Johnson. This book is a young adult memoir or manifesto presented as a series of personal essays detailing the author's coming of age as a Black queer individual in New Jersey and Virginia. The book chronicles Johnson's journey of self-discovery, exploring themes of gender identity, sexuality, racism, family, and community through personal experiences with love, loss, trauma, and joy. It serves as both a reassurance for Black queer youth and a guide for allies, aiming to provide representation and understanding where Johnson felt none existed while he was growing up. Let's talk about why this book has been banned and why it stays at the top of the banned books list every year. The main reason is for the presence of LGBTQIA plus themes and characters, and the book's frank discussion of sex, sex education, and sexual encounters. Those are the reasons, of course, that are frequently cited as reasons for bans. Because, don't nobody really be doing that. But, we don't want the children to see nobody like themselves out there. But hey, who am I? The last book that I want to talk about is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. Let's see. Nobel Prize winning author, American literary classic, taught in universities all over, banned in high schools. The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison follows Picola Breedlove, an 11-year-old African-American girl in 1941 Ohio, who, due to severe abuse and neglect from her family and the racism of the era, believes that having blue eyes will make her beautiful and loved. This book is hard. It is devastating. You know where it's going from like the first page. There is no hiding it. And that, I believe, is a good thing. There is literally no way around the topics that it confronts. It deals with racism and generational trauma of class and race and hate, and even, I will argue, self-hate that results in something horrific in the book, which you really learn about on the first page. But apparently confronting racism and trauma is too mature for the kids who are already experiencing it. Yeah, this gets me hot. The challenges often involve taking passages out of context. That is a hot topic lately, isn't it? Anyway, as seen with a parent in Texas at a Texas school board meeting focusing on a passage that references sex to the detriment of the book's broader message about racism and objectification. The Bluest Eye is one of the most challenged and banned books in the United States, it is also considered groundbreaking, a masterpiece. And like I said before, taught in universities all over the country. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me that it remains on a banned book list. Is it hard? Yes. It is really one of the hardest books I ever read. And I read it in my teens, and I read it recently again in my 40s, and I can say that it remains hard. I understand it better now that I am older. I can get through I understand those generational issues and what she was trying to say, and I would have appreciated it when I was younger if I had had a class or a teacher who could lead me through that book and help me understand it better. It is her first book. I will not say it is her best book. It is actually her easiest to read book. It is her most straightforward book. And I must say, you must read it. So every time I see it on a banned books list, I want to scream. But anyway, these books weren't banned because they're dangerous. They were banned because they tell the truth. Reading them is an act of resistance. It's an act of empathy, and it is a celebration of the freedom to read. And that is why every banned books week I talk about banned books, because I feel like there are so many, you can learn so much. You can broaden your horizons, broaden your perspectives, and your children can too if they are allowed to read these books. I'm all for parents monitoring what their children read if they feel they need to. But I feel like one of the best ways to do that is to have conversations with your kids, and don't impose your views and your thoughts on other people's children. That is not your job. And I can say that as a parent. Well, friends, today's episode was just a little bit heavy. So let's talk about my current reads and what is on my TBR, just to close us out on a happy note. I am still reading Alchemist, the book that I talked about last episode. I'm not going to rehash that book. If you want to just look it up, I will leave a link to it in the show notes. This book is 1,024 pages. I am currently, as of the recording this podcast, on page 756. So I'm getting there. I have taken several breaks, however, and I am reading a Christmas romance to break it up because that book is dark and I need breaks. I'm currently breaking it up with Good Spirits by B.K. Borison that is coming out on October 21st. I got an audio arc from Libro FM, and it's literally so cute. So cute. Let's talk about the premise. He's the ghost of Christmas past. She's not exactly Scrooge. Ghost of Christmas past Nolan Callahan intends to spend this holiday haunting like every other. Get in, get out, return to his otherwise aimless existence as a ghost awaiting the afterlife. But when he's faced with Harriet York, the sweetest assignment he's ever had, he suddenly finds himself wishing for a future. Harriet York has no idea why she's being haunted. She's a good person, or at least she tries to be. A people pleaser to her core, she always does what is expected of her. But as she and Nolan begin to examine her past, they discover there are threads that bind them together and realize there might be more to moving on than expected. With a deadline of Christmas Eve fast approaching, they will find the key to their futures in each other's past, or will they stay firmly in the present, indulging their unexpected spirited connection? I am literally adoring this book right now. I am about 40% in, just when we discover that there is indeed more to this haunting than expected. Also, it's a slow burn, which is my literal favorite. They haven't even kissed yet, even though both of them have thought about it. And I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So after I finish my current read and this Christmas novel, I know I'm going to be in the mood for something light. So on my TBR will be Mate by Allie Hazelwood. I got a preview of this book's first two chapters, and now I have to read it. Let's see. Let's talk about what it is. All right. The premise. Serena Paris is orphaned, packless, and one of a kind. Coming forward as the first human-were hybrid was supposed to heal centuries-long rift between the species. Instead, it made her a target, prey to the ruthless political machinations between wares, vampires, and humans. With her enemies closing in on her, she only has one option left, if he'll have her. As the alpha of the Northwest Pack, Cohen Alexander commands obedience. His authority is so absolute, only a fool would threaten his mate. It doesn't matter if Serena doesn't reciprocate his feelings. Nothing will stop him from keeping her safe. But power-hungry vampires and wares are not the only threats chasing Serena. Sooner or later, her past is bound to catch up with her, and Cohen might be the only thing standing between her and total annihilation. Friends, I am excited about this one. I read the first one reluctantly. I wasn't like really into it. I was like, why is Allie Hazelwood writing a paranormal romance. And it took me like half the book because, frankly, in the beginning, I could not stand the main character. But now I love her. By the end of the book, I was like, okay, okay, I see it. And then I saw this next book being set up and wondered if we were going to get a second book. And I'm very happy that we did. Like I said, I got a preview of this book's first few chapters, and now I really have to read it. I was curious, but now I have to read it. So it is out today, October 7th. So hopefully my copy from the library arrives and is ready for me to pick up by the end of the week, just in time for some weekend reading after I finish my last big long run before my half marathon. So I'll need something to do for the rest of the day on the couch in a horizontal position. Okay, friends. That is all I've got for us today. I hope you learned something, and I hope I gave you something to put on your into your advocate toolbox. As always, if you enjoyed listening, I'd love it if you would follow me on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. And if you have a minute, please think about leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or sharing the podcast on social media. It helps us to grow and find other bookish friends. If you'd like to connect with me, you can email me at pouringoverbookspod@gmail.com, or you can also connect with me with the Pouring Over Books podcast on Instagram. It's Pouring Over Books Pod, I believe. And if you can also connect with me on my personal IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wilts. Thanks again, friends, for listening. I will talk to you later. Bye bye.